Good evening. Tonight, amid a Metro Schools budget crunch, News Channel 5 investigates, uncovers millions of dollars in questionable spending.
Our investigation discovered that for the past 2 years, the district has repeatedly violated its own purchasing rules.
News Channel 5's chief investigative reporter Phil Williams has spent weeks following the money. Phil.
Well, guys, from the beginning of Dr. Sean Joseph's tenure, we exposed how he's brought lots of friends and former associates here from other states. Now we've discovered he's also given out hundreds of thousands of dollars in consulting contracts to those people, while sometimes keeping it from the board that hired him. When Dr. Sean Joseph began as Metro's director of schools almost 2 years ago, he skillfully convinced school board members to treat him more as a partner than an employee. So when critics questioned his spending on a luxury vehicle and a driver, school board chair Anna Shepard had his back.
I think that Dr. Joseph needs to do whatever he needs to do to make sure that we are successful. And if that's what, in his infinite wisdom, if that's what he thinks he needs, then he, has full reign to do that.
Anytime you create a work of art.
Full reign also apparently meant hiring this man who worked with Joseph in Maryland. Bruce Taylor's contract shows his job included suggesting interventions to improve results on ACT college entrance exams. But Taylor's website touts his training 30 years ago with the Royal Academy of Dramatic Art. In fact, he confirms he has no formal training related to education.
That is baffling to me.
T.C. Weber writes a popular education blog, and he's now running for the school board. He was stunned when we showed him Taylor's first contract for $25,000, which wasn't signed until 6 months after the Maryland man first went to work for Nashville schools.
Say he went out and sold that student data or whatever. I'm not saying that he would, but say he did. He doesn't have a contract telling him he can't do that. So now you're showing up to court and saying, well, he sold our student data. Where's the contract that says he can't do that?
So that is a huge concern for me.
MNPS rules say all expenditures over $100,000 must be approved by the board, but Joseph followed the $25,000 contract with the second one for $80,000 without ever asking the board for approval.
That makes no sense to me whatsoever. I would think that some questions need to be asked about this contract, and I would think that this would be a contract that would need to be discussed on the board floor.
If I can get a kid to feel...
Taylor's contract was an example of what Metro Schools calls an unauthorized purchase request, incidents where the district violated its own purchasing rules. We discovered that unauthorized purchase requests went from just over $300,000 in the year before Dr. Joseph took control to $2.3 million in Joseph's first year on the job. Already this year, those requests have topped $1 million.
And I don't know why government seems to think it's okay to waste people's money. It's not okay.
Metro Council member Steve Glover is a former school board member who sits on the council's education committee. After parents at one high school were recently forced to bring in their own paper due to a budget crunch, Glover was critical of the district.
This is one of the things that helps us get to where we are right now. This is one of the things that has put us where we are right now, and this is completely unacceptable.
There's a couple points I do want to clarify.
We also discovered another example of one of Dr. Joseph's former associates getting a questionable contract.
Take a minute now with the instructor.
Last year, John Safier's company, Research for Better Teaching, was brought in to teach Nashville teachers how to teach. And to this day, RBT still doesn't have a formal contract. But 3 purchase orders show Metro agreeing to spend a total of $107,000, and an attached agreement shows that number could go even higher. The district says board approval wasn't necessary because they split up the work into different projects.
This to me smacks of, I don't want it looked at, I don't want it talked about. You're just going to have to believe me when I say it's the best. And if you don't know to look for it, how would you even know?
Somebody needs to be getting a handle on that, and that's going to be the board's job. But I'm certain the council will question this extensively when we get into budget season.
Now, as for the consultant with the theater background, Bruce Taylor justified his lack of education credentials by saying that, quote, if his approach works, credentials don't really matter. And we heard from the school district late today. They insist Taylor's work is making a difference. As for the unauthorized purchase request, they say just because purchase procedures were not followed, quote, it does not indicate the purchase was inappropriate. Our investigation continues tomorrow night. Vicki?
Thanks, Phil.